My name's Emma Corlett and I am the Youth Participation Lead at Norfolk and Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust. In 2013, we took 10 Youth Council members from the Trust to the International Youth Mental Health Conference, which was taking place in Brighton. And we were sort of participants in the audience, and we submitted a poster presentation, which the Youth Council won an award for. And following that, people kind of saying, actually, next time, the conference happens every 2 years, wouldn't it be really good if we could do our own presentation next time? Because they were really struck that there were hardly any presentations by young people themselves. It was mostly professionals. So they set that as their goal. As soon as the conference was advertised, the 2015 one, they had an idea of what they wanted to do, so they submitted their ideas. That was accepted as a presentation, and so things went from there.
I joined the Youth Council in March. I met Emma at a youth steering group meeting. It was the first meeting I'd attended, and I was the only young person there, despite it being a group all about young people's mental health. And I wasn't really given the chance to say anything. But Emma stood up for me, even though I'd never met her before either. And she said, look, we've got a young person here, why don't you let her have a say? And from there, she must have noticed that I really had lots to say and asked me if I wanted to join the Suffolk Youth Council. So we met, and she told me about Canada at our first proper meeting together and said that this was an opportunity that I could be involved with, and would I like to? So of course I said yes.
When she came home from the first meeting with Emma Corlett and said that, yes, I've been asked to join the Youth Council and we're off to Canada, and I'm thinking, oh, right. But actually, yep, you think you can do it, so that's the important thing. If you think you can do it, you can do it, and that's what she did.
And the Youth Council had quite a lot of discussion about what they should submit as a presentation to the conference in Canada, and they kind of reflected on those that had been to Brighton, felt that some of the presentations were really dry, quite dull and inaccessible, so they wanted to do something that was really creative, and they thought very early on that that might be in the form of kind of film or spoken word or poetry, so we knew that would be the theme, and they wanted to really focus their presentation on why it's important to involve children and young people in all decisions about mental health. So that was the kind of idea for it.
We began by putting together an idea of what we wanted to talk about. So some of our members wrote an abstract for the presentation that we hoped to deliver. We always had it in mind that we wanted it to be a creative project, not your average PowerPoint. And so we worked to, I suppose, find a new way of putting out our ideas. We really wanted to talk about our participation in services and how that had impacted on our own journeys.
So the next steps after we decided what we were going to do was to kind of think about who we might need to work with and how we were going to portray it. And I asked people to think about not just how they feel now, but in 10, 20 years' time, are you going to necessarily want to be associated with a project? You might be quite happy for people to know that you're in contact with mental health services, but that might not be what you choose to tell people about your life. So people came up with the idea of perhaps making puppet representations of themselves, because then they were in control of how they presented themselves to the world, and if they could talk through the puppet effectively.
I've been working with the Trust and looking at youth projects in the past. So I was asked to do some work with the Youth Council, who were off to Canada. And it seemed a really good way of allowing young people to speak without being identified, or having a means through which to say things that is otherwise, it can be really difficult for people to talk. And puppets are just the most brilliant way of letting people say stuff.
really important part was thinking about how we could get all the words together in a way that involved everybody. And we're really lucky locally to have a really strong spoken word scene. I'd seen Molly Naylor and Luke Wright perform on a number of occasions, and I felt really strongly that they would engage really well, and they were absolutely fantastic in guiding what the youth council members wanted to do, but without dominating. They really kind of allowed them to express themselves, but just help put some structure around it.
My name is Luke Wright and I'm a poet, performer and playwright. I'm working with another poet called Molly Naylor, and we ran a series of creative writing exercises, getting them thinking about metaphor, musicality, all the things that go into making good poems. They've got to be, the language needs to be fresh, but also they should sound good as well. And so we went through a number of sort of general exercises like that and gave them some starting points for writing about their own experiences.
I'm Molly Naylor, and I am a writer. I write scripts for radio and theatre and TV. I write poetry and I make theatre shows, and when I get the chance I do lots of different kind of educational workshops with young people and a range for all ages really. We wanted them to each create a piece that explored their experience of accessing mental health services. So those pieces were obviously quite personal and told an individual story.
Molly and Luke really put everybody at ease and made them feel confident to kind of push themselves really, to not just write down what they were thinking, but also to say it out loud and share that as a group. So that was really amazing to see. And then I think for me, when we did the first read through, when people read out loud what they'd done, everyone was stunned into silence really, just to see what people were capable of.
I was really excited about the writing workshops because I'd done a lot of creative writing on my own, but I'd never shared it with anyone before. So coming to a group and thinking I'm going to actually read aloud what I've written was quite daunting, but it actually taught me that people appreciate what I've written, and since then I put together some poetry books for our fundraising and sold those, so that was a really great result from the writing workshops.
Sometimes it can be a challenge to get people writing about themselves, but actually they all just absolutely flew, and the pieces they created were really wonderful.
I think when you work on a project with young people and they're telling an important story, there's always an emotional side to it. Yeah, I mean, you feel a great sort of responsibility as an artist. You know, we need to sort of sensitively sort of bring that story out of them. So yeah, and at the end of the day, when you hear people reading their stuff out, you do get a little bit sort of choked up by it sometimes. Yeah.
Once we started working with Juliet, it was really amazing to see how people started to establish relationships with each other as well as their puppet self that they were creating. At this time, some youth council members didn't really know each other too well, so people could focus on their puppet, but they were kind of building relationships with each other. They got on really well, they really encouraged and supported each other, and it was just amazing to see the puppets take shape. And I think to begin with we were thinking, can we really achieve that much in 2 half days? But it was amazing what we came away with.
We spent 2 amazing days making puppets, and to see them, you know, coming to life, and it was just wonderful to see, and to see the likenesses, you know, you could see which puppet belonged to who. It was just fantastic, and everyone was so focused and it was calm. It was just lovely, really lovely.
The great thing about the process was that they'd made these puppets, so the puppets could voice their experiences. So I think that gave them a real freedom to be very honest and to be very personal and tell the truth about their story.
The next step in the project was actually filming the puppets and putting the words with the puppets, bringing it all together. And it just kind of started to work, it just fitted. As we did it, all of the youth council members were involved in the kind of editing and directing decisions as well as we went along. And to see just even the first rough cuts of it, people were just amazed. And the things they were saying, such as, like, I can't believe how amazing it looks, and I thought it would be okay, but it's exceeded all my expectations, and I can't quite believe that we created that. So we ended up with something that everybody was exceptionally proud of, and rightly so, because it's a really amazing piece of work.
I saw the film for the first time a few weeks before we went to Canada, actually, when the filmmaker Dave sent it to me and one of the other youth council members to check it over before finally putting it together and getting it ready for Canada. And I was quite shocked. I hadn't really believed that it was going to be a proper film that other people would see, and how professional it would look, because none of us had really done that sort of thing before, so it was quite amazing to see it come together.
We're going to show you a short film about our experiences of using mental health services and how genuine participation has helped us and had an impact on our lives.
Then we went on to obviously show it at the conference in Canada, and you normally get a little background hub of people chatting and stuff and things, but the conference was absolutely silent as they did their presentation, and then at the end the film presentation they got a standing ovation, which I think was justified, so a really, really powerful reaction from an international audience as well.
It was really hard. I hadn't really anticipated how hard it would be until I got there. I'd sort of been thinking, actually this is going to be fine, this is going to be really fun, and then the day came to go off to Canada, and then the doubts started coming in about whether I'd be able to do it. But I think I actually learnt so much about myself by sticking through, and I really learnt that when I find it difficult to cope, I now have the resources to go and sort of say, I need some help, or even the skills to do it by myself. And there were times when I was really stressed and some of the symptoms that I hadn't experienced for quite a while started to re-emerge. But actually I got through it, and I didn't resort to any of the behaviours I might have resorted to in the past, so that it was a moment of self-realisation that actually I've come a long way.
Please listen carefully. It can take years for a wound to seal. It's a meandering mess, concrete beneath my feet. Green trees turn to amber leaves. Get it off your chest. I'd rather not. I'd rather rest.
Didn't need fixing by some stranger, someone to poke and muddle, try to rearrange her.
They'll say you started it, weren't prepared to conform, or rather to challenge stigma, and fundraise to be here with all of you. And now I'm across the Atlantic with the Norfolk and Suffolk Youth Crew.
Straight after they'd finished their presentation, they were like so proud. I think for me, there was so many of them had pushed themselves way outside of their comfort zone. There was a couple of people that when we left said, I'm probably not going to do the presentation, but they actually got up on stage and did it. So there's a sense of achievement. Then lots of people came up to speak to them at the end of their presentation, gave them loads of feedback. And on social media as well, because social media was quite a big feature of the conference. There was lots of comments such as, this is exactly how it should be, young people presenting things for themselves. So it was just really, really well received. Since we've got back from Canada, all of the Youth Council members have been really busy doing various things. Some have gone back to school or college, and they're really clear that the confidence that they've gained through working with the Youth Council has really helped them make that step to get back into education. A couple of people have started work at the Mental Health Trust as apprentices, and a couple of people are now governors at the Mental Health Trust, the youth appointed governors, and we've been busy presenting at other conferences. We did a big presentation in Norfolk, which was to all professionals working with young people, and as a result of that, a police officer has kind of approached us to do some work with them, as have a couple of high schools as well. So everyone's been really busy since we've been back.
Today I work as an apprentice with NSFT's Recovery College. Before getting this apprenticeship, I was already volunteering with the Recovery College, but I would never have said that I'd be employed by them. I think what got me into it was a comment from Emma saying, there's this apprenticeship going, I think you should go for it. And so I did, and I don't think I ever really thought that I'd get anywhere with it, but I got an interview, and then I was told a week or so later that I got the apprenticeship. And I now work doing an MBQ in Business and Administration alongside teaching in the Recovery College, helping with the administration side of things, and generally inspiring people that they can have a recovery like I've got.
I wouldn't have dreamt a year ago that Esme would be doing and have done all the things she's done this year. With the apprenticeship, when Esme said that she wanted to apply, the fact that she felt she could apply, that she felt she could do the job, I think that was the amazing thing. Not so much that she got the job, yes, I think she obviously deserved it, but the fact that she felt able to apply, that she felt that that was something that she was now ready to do, and that was just such a wonderful feeling that she could feel that she was ready for that step.
I've started to think more about how important it is for people to be able to tell their stories in the way that they want to tell them. For me, the main thing I've learned is the importance of creating environments where that is possible, and the massive benefit that that can have.
This project and working with the Youth Council is it's such a privilege, and I think for me it just reinforces my hunch that if you put the right support in place for people and provide the right opportunities, people can push themselves outside their comfort zone and achieve more. So it's just putting those things in place to make sure people can flourish and use the skills and expertise that they've got. And I think it goes to show that if you do that, then people can make really massive strides forward. So they all got a huge amount out of it, but I definitely did as well.
Sorry, I totally forgot the last bit. I'm not messing around. Forgot whether it was there.
We've had lots of behind the scenes help from staff and families. We can't...
People have been fantastic, making things, giving donations, coming to our events and helping us get our message over.
Whoa!
He's worn out with the whole effort.
Yeah, that's good. Bit